Okay, Suey, welcome. Guten Morgen. Continue with the book of Judith. Almost finished. A couple more epistles to go. This, of course, being the 14th. I believe we'll get this one accomplished in one video, but we'll see. Judith has just returned from this incredible journey where she has destroyed the enemy of Elohim's church. Threats. This General Holofernes, incredible young General Holofernes, who has just conquered nation after nation and grew an incredible army of Assyria to do this. So Judith, she, with everyone from the village of Bethulia, everyone's at the gates. Of course, the leaders are there. So she says, "Hear me, brethren," as she's displaying this head of this incredible general. She's telling them to hang his head upon our walls high. And it shall be that when the sun is going to rise, that every man in our village take his armor and issue forth with violence. Not that you are going down beneath, but as it were invading violently. And the watchmen must of necessity run to raise up their prince to battle. And when the captains, she explains, of them shall run to the tabernacle of Holofernes, she says, they shall find him headless, robed in blood. Fear will fall upon them. And she explains, when you shall know that, they flee. She instructs them to go after those that are fleeing and strike them down. Because our Lord is with you and he will strike them underneath your feet. She instructs the leaders to hang the head of Holofernes from the highest wall. And they do that. And the reason she wants this accomplished bandit trying to escape. The reason why she says this is because it's going to act as an indicator when the sun goes up. That's time for the Bethulians. God has done his part. It's time now for the men of Bethulia to do their part. So it's not about the display of the head was not about having a trophy tent per se, like Holofernes does. It was more of a symbol, of a sign of unification for these men of Bethulia to now get together. Let's go. Let's finish this. Let's finish what he has started, which we should have done a long time ago, but we didn't. So once again, God comes to our rescue. Achior, remember Captain Achior, one of the heroes of this? After seeing all this, the power of God that he brought for Israel, and the circumcision of his flesh, of course, he's joined to the people of Israel from that day forward, and his family, his bloodline, succinctly his kindred, until probably most likely the presence, if it still exists, if the Achior bloodline still exists, according to the liturgy, it does. They are still with Elohim. I bring this up because Achior was an Ammonite, if you recall. But he was truly converted because he believed in God. And he was admitted into his church, notwithstanding that the Ammonites, as well as their neighbors, the Moabites, both of them were excluded by name in this church. So that's why Achior's story is just as important to follow along with Judith's incredible book here. As day broke, they hung the head of Holofernes on the walls, and every man took up his armor, and they went forth with great noise and shouting. They're going down to the valley. They got God on their side down below in the valley. Speaking about down below, in the Megiddo Valley, remember Bozias? He was one of the slaves inside this area, as well as the eunuch Vagao, one of the helpers of Holofernes. Well, they got both these guys together because Holofernes isn't up yet. It seems kind of weird, but then again, he was with Judith last night. So no one really knows what to do at this point. Their leader is asleep, though he shouldn't be, but he did sleep with the most beautiful woman in the world. So after giving the general more allowance, they began to think otherwise. These few men began finally to seek out the eunuch, Bozias, who's the first personal servant, I believe I said slave, it's servant to the general. When the watchmen seeing, they ran to the tabernacle of Holofernes, and they went inside, and before the door of the tabernacle, they made noise to try to wake him. They endeavored by art to disquiet him, that Holofernes might be awake, but, by them raising him, but by them making a noise. For no man dared knock or enter to open the chamber, the chief of the Assyrian armies. No one dared to do that. But when his dukes and his tribunes, when they came and all the chiefs of the army, everyone gathered about because everyone's getting kind of worried at this point, they said to the chamberlains, go in and wake him. Go in and wake him, because the mice coming out of their holes have presumed to provoke us to battle. I want to talk about these desert rats. I think there's a specific reason this is brought up, because in the desert, the desert rat has a pretty tough life, but they are very sensitive to food. They know where food is, because their extraordinary scent ability, and when they smelled the blood, a trail of rats were going into this tent of Holofernes. Whenever man's inside the desert, rodents of all sizes will be drawn to man because of food, protection, and warmth. These three things. And seeing these rodents, I can imagine these line of rodents going in and out of Holofernes' tent probably seemed quite unusual. But they did have a big party, so they're thinking maybe they're going after the food. No one thought that the attraction to these rodents was not food. It was blood. But no one thought that. No one dared to no one bothered to probably even take a little bit closer look at these rats, and that they would see that there's actually blood on their paws, but no one did. Because this is their general. And, he's like their god. What could possibly happen to him, especially with a woman last night? And being these rodents are opportunists, the scent of freshly deceased meat, yeah, that's definitely a ringing bell for these guys at dawn. Overabundance of tiny rodents going in and out of Holofernes' tent, and that didn't strike any curiosity. Continuing, so Vagao, the eunuch, he finally enters the chamber. He stands before the curtain. And he claps his hands, makes some more noises, and try to get the general to awaken, unsuccessfully. For he thought that he was still sleeping with Judith, obviously. No one's seen Judith around, right? But he was listening very acutely, and when he heard no sound at all, no rustling, no one getting in and out of the bed, nothing, this starts to disturb. So he gets close to the curtain and he lifts it up. And he sees the body on the floor without a head. Holofernes, the headless Holofernes, is weltering in his own blood. And Vagao, I imagine his face just turns ghostly white. His eyes bulge out of his head. His jaw drops. My goodness, is this actually Holofernes I see before me? So he cries out in a loud voice, weeping, and he rents his garments, tearing off and tearing up his clothes because he's going wild that they can't believe Holofernes is dead. So then he goes into the tabernacle of Judith. He doesn't find her there. He leaps forth to the people and he says this. One Hebrew woman. Yeah. One Hebrew woman hath made confusion in the house of King Nabuchodonosor. For behold, Holofernes lieth upon the ground, and his head is not upon him. Yeah, this is a problem. So the princes inside this camp, those with power in the Assyrian army, when they heard this, they all did the same with their garments. They rent their garments, taking them off, tearing them off, and just go pulling out their hair and going berserk. Wow. We have just lost our leader to a woman, a Hebrew woman. There was such an incomparable cry that was floating out within the midst of this camp in the valley of Megiddo. Incredible. So the eunuch, he wastes little time corralling anyone nearby. This news drowns the camp. You can imagine like wildfires that are occurring throughout the western half of the United States along the coast. Now imagine you're a soldier who's dedicated your life to this incredible Assyrian army that's been kicking butt. You've also dedicated as part of this army, you've dedicated your life to your king, Nabuchodonosor. Especially you devote your life to his choice of leader of the military, who was Holofernes, this young captain promoted quickly to a general. The direct link to this ambitious quest as a soldier, this ambitious quest you've joined has now come to a sudden halt because your general, your leader, has lost his head. It happened in the middle of the night. It didn't happen during a combat, during a battle, or during any kind of bout. It happened by a woman who everyone thought was succumbing to the leadership and guidance of Nabuchodonosor and the Assyrians. Why were they fooled, huh? So how would you react? How would you react if you were in this Assyrian army? Almost immediately, all of the adjacent captains that were nearby, they were all rant their coats as their minds became unthinkably befuddled and troubled. So confused this entire camp was. And it's just beginning now, because the sword of the Hebrews is about to come upon them. So join us next when we explore the next epistle of Judith, almost towards the end here. Hang with us. Till next time, Pax Vobis.